Tonight on the MTN 430 News, big problems in Big Timber.
It takes a lot of water to support a community. Yeah, you don't realize it until it's gone.
From shutdowns to empty shelves, the city's still reeling after losing water for a day. Plus a prime time speech.
Not many people thought we could get this done.
President Biden set to address the nation as war rages on in Israel. And on the walls,
A Couple of Art Lovers is kind of our fun take on Joe and Miriam's story.
we'll take you on a tour as a popular art collection finds a home at the Yam. The MTN News starts right now. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight on the 430 News. I'm Andrea Lutz. Well, Big Timber's water is back on, but much of the city continues to struggle. In fact, most of the town's restaurants remain closed. The city was without water for most of Tuesday after a fiber optic construction company hit a main line. That pipe was fixed that night, but several challenges still remain at this hour. The city remains under a boil water advisory. That advisory is due to the loss of system pressure, which could allow contaminants into the water. Iron Star Pizza Company is one of the many businesses currently closed, with the advisory expected to continue into next week.
A week is an impact. I mean, it's an impact for our employees. It's an impact for us. We're hoping that our insurance company can come through and go back and basically hold accountable the people that caused the issue, you know.
The advisory is scheduled to remain in effect until next Tuesday, October 24th. Bottled water in town has been a hot commodity. Stores in town have been ordering extra pallets of water, but it has been flying off store shelves. A very special homecoming as a Montana Highway Patrol trooper is on his way back to the Treasure State. Trooper Lewis Johnson was run over by a suspect's vehicle in February near Eureka, suffering several serious injuries. He spent months in recovery at a Colorado hospital, but after 8 months is on his way home. A special celebration, that is planned for Sunday in Chester. That's his hometown. As violence persists in the Middle East, the State Department issuing a worldwide alert to U.S. citizens. They say due to increased tensions, U.S. citizens overseas need to exercise caution. That warning comes as Israeli airstrikes continue to pound locations across the Gaza Strip. Israel's defense minister is also telling ground troops to be ready to enter Gaza. President Joe Biden could ask Congress to approve emergency funding to arm Israel. On that note, President Biden is scheduled to address the nation tonight, just as his second primetime address. With more on what he might say, here's Serena Marshall.
President Biden expected to take the funding request he'll make to Congress first to the American people in a primetime Oval Office address tonight. He's expected to explain to the American people why this is a national security issue, both for funding for Ukraine and Israel. Sources familiar tell us that funding package will be in the roughly $100 billion frame, and it will include Israel, Ukraine, as well as the Indo-Pacific region and the border. President Biden came back from his trip to Israel overnight, and while he admitted the high-stakes risk of this trip, he also said it was worth it in order to ensure humanitarian aid got to Gaza.
Not many people thought we could get this done. And not many people want to be associated with failure. And there was, quite frankly, a lengthy hour or more discussion about whether to go. Because had we gone and it's failed, then, you know, the United States failed, Biden's presidency fails, etc., which would be legitimate. I came to get something done. I got it done.
What the president got done, roughly 20 trucks, the first set of almost 150 in humanitarian aid into Gaza. The president saying he expects it to go through by Friday, and a promise of $100 million in aid that will include food, water, and health care. During his time on the ground, the president met with families of those impacted, both victims of the dead and hostages, and spoke directly to the Israeli people, hitting notes of compassion and caution in his televised address carried live across the nation, and drawing a line line between the Palestinian people and Hamas. And while the portion of his trip to Jordan was canceled last minute, a high-profile snub by nations that are considered key allies and recipients of U.S. aid following the hospital blast, which overshadowed and brought into question if the president could accomplish one of his goals, including diffusing the flurry of protests and outrage in the region. The president saying he was told by the U.S. Defense Department and intelligence agencies it was not Israel behind the attack.
And I'm not suggesting that Hamas deliberately did it either. It's that old thing, gotta know how to shoot straight. And it's not the first time Hamas has launched something that didn't function very well. So I don't know all the detail, but I do know the people at the Defense Department who I respect, and the intelligence community that I respect. It be highly improbable that Israel did that.
On the flight home, the president posting this photo on X, saying he spoke with El-Sisi of Egypt. The president and the White House said the two of them agreed to preserve stability in the Middle East and prevent escalation while coordinating that U.S. aid. An expected call between President Biden and Palestinian Presidential Authority Abbas, though, did not happen. A U.S. official telling us the two couldn't connect. Serena Marshall, Scripps News, Washington.
Seeing the writing on the wall, Congressman Jim Jordan agreed to cancel a third round of voting today, knowing he didn't have enough support. The Ohio Republican says he's not bowing out of the speaker's race, rather calling a timeout. He's now backing a plan to give Speaker Pro Tem Patrick McHenry the power to preside over the House. The move could give Jordan more time to sway 20 Republican holdouts. Congress has less than a month to pass a spending bill to keep the government open.
I hope you've been able to enjoy the amazing weather that we've had on this Thursday around the Treasure State. Lots of sunshine, some gusty wind at times. I'm keeping my eyes on more sun and more warmth on Friday. We'll have increasing clouds this coming weekend, but there are much bigger changes coming to our weather by the early to middle part of next week, involving rain, snow for many locations, as well as much cooler air. I'll have a complete 7-day forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Yellowstone National Park continues to be a very popular destination as we head into the fall. Visitation numbers for September are up almost 50% over last year, with more than 838,000 visits. Even before COVID closure, September's numbers are still up 21%. So far this year, Yellowstone visitations are over 4.1 million. Going back to 2019, this year is already 9% higher. Joe Sample is a familiar name here in Billings. Not only did he found the Montana Television Network, which includes Q2 and 4 other television stations across the state, he also acquired a massive art collection, much of which is now on display at the Yellowstone Art Museum. MTN's Alina Howder takes us on a tour and explains how you can see it, even for free.
Out and About is sponsored by Blue Creek Storage at Shorey.
It's no secret that Joseph and Miriam Sample played a huge part in the art scene here in Montana, and now Yellowstone Art Museum patrons can see works of art from their own personal collections all for free.
It's a place that's home to music, art, and now a little piece of history.
A Couple of Art Lovers is kind of our fun take on Joe and Miriam's story.
The Samples have donated hundreds of pieces to the YAM throughout the years, and the family's legacy is still growing at the Yellowstone Art Museum even now, a year after Joe's death. And it couldn't come at a better time.
We just received a wonderful grant from Art Bridges.
This grant will cover admission for the next 3 years, making it free for visitors.
Which is so wonderful for the community, especially at this time where the show is opening of Joe Sample's work, because Joe and Miriam were both so big on accessibility.
I think it's very much an amazing contribution for somebody to give all this away for people to see for free.
Teen sisters Paige and Jordan LaFerge are aspiring artists themselves. They couldn't wait to see the new 45 works of Western art from Joe's private collection, the first exhibition of A Couple of Art Lovers.
He built up this really encyclopedic, almost collection of Western art and kept it for himself to enjoy, while also keeping it here in Montana and preserving it here knowing that at a later time it would be available for the public.
It joins nearly 300 works of contemporary art from Miriam Sample's collection, already a part of their permanent collection. And the two had very different tastes.
I think she saw a renaissance here almost in Montana to document the practices and what's happening here. And Joe saw a little bit of, the history and the lineage that led up to that.
Joe's collection will be displayed till early January. Miriam's will be on display starting in November.
I feel like when you have such a wide variety of artworks from one person in particular, or from a few, you can really get into the mind of what they were doing and how they thought and how they felt, and I think it's really cool.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
Still to come on the MTN 430 News on Q2, we'll take you to Sheridan, Wyoming as the football team continues to rally behind one of their own. We'll update his and the team's progress. And later, Kick It for Cancer, a Laurel football player making strides on the field, but it's the difference he's making off of it that has everyone talking.